Good morning, guys, and welcome back to Between the Ropes TV. Now, for those of you waking up who don't know, Daniel Dubois did stop Trevor Bryan in the fourth round of their WBA regular heavyweight title fight last night. Now, Ray and I predicted in our preview that it would probably be the fifth or sixth round. We thought Dubois would feel Trevor Bryan out. He's not had the most activity since the Joe Joyce loss. He's only been in for 3 rounds, so we thought he might want to get some rounds under his belt. And that was sort of how it started, really. I mean, Trevor Bryan, he didn't offer a lot, to be honest. And then, as a couple of rounds in, when Dubois decided he was going to up the tempo and start, sort of looking for it, Trevor, he wanted to hold a little bit. It was all a little bit predictable, really. As we said, going into this, Bryan was 22-0 with 15 stoppages, which on paper isn't a bad little record. But what we saw, in fairness to Dubois, is that Trevor Bryan's not really fought somebody with the power, because he looked a little bit rabbit in the headlights at times, and Dubois got him out of there. It's a tough one, really, because we should be a bit more positive. We've spoke on the preview about this regular title situation, and for me, in the heavyweight division, it's an absolute joke, as it is in all divisions, in all fairness. The only one that I do sympathise with is Lee Wood at featherweight, purely because Leo Santa Cruz hasn't fought there, and it's got to be getting on for 3 years now. And in fairness, again, to Lee Wood, he did beat Kanju, who was ranked number 1 in the division. So, you can't accuse him of not being a genuine world champion. But, that's by the by. On this fight, I'm impressed with Dubois because he still went over to America. It's his second fight back-to-back now over in the States. But, the whole fight week was a little bit bizarre. What have we seen this week? We've seen a bit of a heated face-off. We've seen Don King getting confused between a photo and a video. And, the promotion of the fight, we've all laughed at the fight posters. And if you haven't seen them, check them out, because they're truly abysmal. And it's a very strange fight. Pictures of the arena last night, there's barely 500 people in there. So, on the preview, we talked about, is Frank Warren trying to do something different now? He's got, obviously, Fury, although he's retired God knows how many times. He's got Joe Joyce. Is he trying to pump Daniel Dubois in America? And, I think based off the crowd, you'd say if that was his plan, it's failed. And let's be honest, it's another to the list of failures that Frank Warren's had in this last year. So very disappointing from that side. Shout out to Shane McGuigan, because I will say I was more impressed with Daniel Dubois. He seemed there's a bit more measure to his work and a bit more control. So shout out to Shane McGuigan. And we did say that in the preview, that if Dubois does have what it takes to go all the way, Shane McGuigan is probably the right man to get it out of him. And I think that's what we've seen the starts of. The seeds are planted now, so we'll have to see how he develops, because he's still only 24, Daniel Dubois. Let's not forget that. And, he's talked about, Shane McGuigan said he'd love to see him in with Dillian Whyte next. For me, that's a silly fight for Daniel Dubois. As we've said now, he's had now 7 rounds of action since November 2020. He's 24 years old. Now, don't get me wrong, I appreciate he's bowling everybody over, and, he's only had the 1 point to win. The other 17 have come by stoppage. But you need to put Daniel Dubois in with other people who can give him legitimate rounds. With this regular title, he's now the mandatory to face the winner of Alexander Usyk and Anthony Joshua's rematch. But in reality, they're probably going to go to make the undisputed fight, so he's not going to get that this year. And I actually think that's perfect for Dubois, because for Dubois now, you've got Michael Hunter and Hughie Fury, which is a WBA final eliminator. That's July the 2nd. It's 3 weeks away, isn't it? So for me, for Dubois, I'd be getting him out in September. He's not hurt from last night, so provided there's been no reports and he looked fine, but provided there's no hand injuries or little niggles, get him out in September. Give him a homecoming fight, as a no doubt Frank Warren will bill it as the homecoming of the king and a world title defense, which for me, it's not that, but that's what we'll get. If he comes, it's another couple of rounds. But then for Christmas, for me, you want him back out, and you want him really with the winner of Hunter and Hughie Fury, because both tough guys, both, to be fair, a decent world level, not the absolute elite, but they're definitely in that group below. And that would be a great measure of where he's come from. But little curveball, possibly. You know, Joseph Parker, as we said on last night's React Poor, Turkey Reaction, has now signed with Sky and Boxer, which, let's be fair, massively throws a spanner into getting the Joe Joyce Joseph Parker fight rearranged. Now Dubois is bringing this world title. I think we may end up seeing come Christmas a Dubois Joyce rematch, because I think that's just what Frank Warren will push for. It'll be right the wrong, you know, Joe, oh, this is a world title fight, you've got to keep waiting, and all the rest of it, all the usual excuses and ridiculous reasons we hear from Frank Warren. So I think that will be what probably happens for me. But guys, let us know in the comment section what you think. What did you think of the fight last night? It was slightly bizarre, wasn't it? You know, supposed world title fight in front of a few hundred fans. And if you haven't already, hit the like button, hit the subscribe button. We are going live at 8:30 tomorrow night. There'll be me and Ray. Scott's on holiday again for a change. Yeah, join us there. We want to know your thoughts on these weekend events.